So we're in your biology and chapter 12, and we're right at the end, and I was talking about cancer, and I didn't have enough time. I know it was a kind of long video, so this one's going to be really short on cancer. The progression of cancer, I kind of went over this progression, how you have a genetically altered cell here, and from this genetically altered cell you have a tumor, and this tumor is benign at first, but then as it gets goes on to be able to spread itself, it becomes malignant, and then can metastasize to other parts of your body. So let's look at this last part where it's metastasizing. There you go. So you see here we have the malignant tumor growing here. It gets into your blood system and lymph system, and then it flows through, and then this malignant cell can implant itself in other parts of your body. And that's when you're said to have malignant cancer, metastasizing. So we were talking about what causes these things and this runaway growth of the body's own cells. And there's actually hundreds of different types of cancer. And we know that what causes mutations in the DNA, but it also is caused by hereditary. That means if you have someone with cancer in your family, you're more likely to get cancer, so you have to watch yourself in those areas. Nutrition too, especially with colon cancer. You know, you have enough fiber, make sure you have enough fiber in your diet. And then smoking and drug abuse can cause cancer, and certain viruses can cause cancer too. Also, some things like UV light, getting too much sunlight, and chronic tissue being irritated. Those things can cause cancers. So another thing I wanted to say here is what kind of cancers, when we talk about cancers, we can say, is it a carcinoma, is it sarcoma, is it a lymphoma, or is it a leukemia? What's the difference between those? It was kind of nice to know these differences, because you always hear, well, I have a carcinoma. What is a carcinoma? A carcinoma is where the cancer is attacking your epithelial cells. So carcinomas have to do with your epithelial cells, which have to do with your skin, right? And then a sarcoma attacks your connective tissue. So it's a little bit more, it's lower where your connective tissue are. That's a sarcoma. And then a lymphoma is attacking your lymph system. So lymphomas, they're mutated lymphocytes, white cells. A lymphoma can be also a leukemia, and a leukemia is mutated blood cells. Leukemias, I've seen it in the blood, where they have an attack of leukemia. You can have all these white blood cells that are just mutated and ugly, and so basically doing pheresis and trying to get rid of all these mutated cells out of your body is pretty horrific for a person with leukemia to go through acute episode of the disease. And then we have melanoma, which is cancer of the melanocytes, skin cancer. Melanoma is very serious. A person with melanoma, usually they haven't noticed it, so it's already rampant into metastasize, and they could die in a couple years or less. So melanomas are pretty ugly. So danger. First, let's see. Let's go over the danger signals and then the treatment. So the danger signals, if you have a persistent sore that doesn't heal, you have a lump somewhere, or none was previously there and suddenly you have a lump in your skin, or you have an increase in size or color appearance of your wart, mole, or birthmark. It just looks weird, looks bigger or increases in size, and so you get it checked out. And unexplained abnormal bleeding or discharge, suddenly you're bleeding somewhere, okay, you need to figure this out. Persistent indigestion or a change in bowel habits, persistent hoarseness or cough that won't go away, and then an unexplained loss of weight. All these things can point to cancer. So having these type of symptoms, you should make sure you go to doctor and get checked to make sure you don't have some kind of cancer. The treatments. What are the treatments of cancer? The treatments of cancer, basically Tumors, you can cut them out surgically, right? Surgically remove those tumors. You can be given chemotherapy, which are drugs to prevent new blood vessels to supply the nutrients, or drugs that trigger the damaged cells to self-destruct. So chemotherapy is chemicals or drugs. And radiation therapy are high doses of radiation to try to stop the rapid tumor cells from developing. So, and then there's another immunotherapy, which is to stimulate your immune system to destroy the cancer cells. And that's kind of a new thing now. And most important is that they're treated as early as possible before they spread, right? What is a carcinogen now? Carcinogen we're talking about here is the substance that causes cancer. Smoking cigarettes, we know, are carcinogens, and they cause mutations in our DNA, especially in the lungs, but other parts of the body too. Also, a carcinogen, this whole story talks about, how they detected carcinogens, and they did a lot of experiments with rodent tests to see if things were cancerous. But when they did these tests with mice and rodents, they always used a very high amount of carcinogen. So they found out, well, some of these things weren't really cancerous that we thought were cancerous before. But they have another test they do now, and it's called the Ames test. And that's when they test the cancer, the genetic mutations on like cultures of bacteria to see if they cause mutations. So it's kind of a different kind of a test. So, but if that happens, then they know something is a carcinogen, can cause cancer. Used to be they'd think everything causes cancer, but now we know one thing: you should avoid smoking, eat healthy, right? Balanced diet, a lot of vegetables, right? And fruits, those are good. Exercise, and try not to be obese. Obesity even leads to cancer. So if chemicals are mutagenic, that's when they're carcinogens and causing. Those are words: mutagenic and carcinogen. Those are words of cancer-causing things. So I think I went over all of that now. So this being a short one, but I couldn't fit this on the other. So as for cancer, I've seen people have cancer and be healed of cancer. So when you have cancer, it's this terrible, terrible word, but not always, because there's a lot of way to deal with cancer. And also a lot of people go into remission. It's not as bad as it used to be in the past, but also God heals. So let's stop there.